What if I told you everything you've been taught about dieting for weight loss could be wrong, and that cutting calories and avoiding eating fat might have actually sabotaged your success? But here's the real secret to learn long-term success. You have to understand the macros, and I'm talking about carbs, proteins, and fats. They're the key to unlocking your body's full potential. So in today's video, we're going to break down exactly why getting macros right is so important and how it can make all the difference on a ketogenic diet. So if you're ready to learn the essentials of macros and how mastering them can lead to lasting weight loss, more energy, and better health, let's dive in. This video is part of a series about learning the basics of starting a ketogenic lifestyle. So let's define what a macronutrient is. Macro meaning large, and nutrients. We need a large amount of these nutrients. And again, they include carbohydrates, protein, fats are the three major ones. You can throw alcohol in there, but I'm not going to discuss that today at length because it's really not required for us to live. They do contain calories, and they provide the fuel for our activities of daily living. They help build our muscles, our bones, and repair tissues, and they also help to regulate bodily functions. If you have a deficiency in a macronutrient, it can lead to significant health issues like malnutrition or muscle loss. But if you lose weight really fast and you're not providing these macronutrients like fat and enough protein, first thing that happens, you'll notice often, is your hair will start falling out. Okay, the body's gonna naturally preserve muscle and bone more, and they're gonna say, well, we don't really need this hair on top of your head, and you'll see that as one of the first signs that maybe your macronutrients are off. Conversely, where you can talk about micronutrients, micro meaning small, they support overall health and immune function and metabolism, and we only need a very little amount. What's included in this category of nutrients are minerals and vitamins. So an example would be, and they don't contain calories. So an example might be calcium, iron, vitamin A. They play an important role in enzyme function, bone health, tissue repair. And if you have a deficiency or a lack of macronutrients, it usually presents itself in a specific disease. So for example, you might not have enough vitamin C, like the sailors of yesteryear, and you can develop scurvy. I mean, that still can happen today. If you have an iron deficiency and you're not eating maybe enough meeting your diet, you become iron deficient. You can have an iron deficiency anemia. Okay, let's take a look at the macronutrient profile for the ketogenic diet. In this pie chart, you can see the majority of our diet is made up of fat, anywhere from 60 to 80%. I will tell you as you go along your journey of weight loss and health, that macro might change depending on how much stored body fat you have. You might need to eat less fat initially because you want to get rid of your own fat sources. And then as you get closer to your goal weight, you might have to start increasing your fat again because you don't have all the extra fat on your body. So that's why they give you that 60 to 80%. In the beginning, we like to keep it closer to 70, 80% because we're trying to make a shift in your energy. We want you to shift from burning carbs to burning fat so that you can produce ketones. The next pie, biggest piece of pie there on that chart, is protein. And mostly that stays consistent from diet to diet. We need a certain amount of protein to remain healthy, to build muscle, to maintain our bones. Where you see the smallest piece of pie, and this is the biggest change, we kind of swapped fat and carbs. The standard American diet is loaded with carbohydrates, and I would say at minimum 60%. So there's a change going to fat, because I know I was cutting fat off my meat my whole life. That's what I was told to do. I was blotting the grease off my pizza from the cheese. That was an old Weight Watchers tip. And I mostly ate carbohydrates. So that was a big shift. It's a mindset shift. Now, when you first go on the ketogenic diet and you're reducing those carbs, I suggest you do it slowly. I did it cold turkey. I will tell you that the first 3 days are not fun. You know, you're used to being a carb burner, and because you always had carbs on board, you were not able to tap into your own body fat. So the body's trying to figure out what to do and how to do it again. So you go through a little bit of growing pains, and some people will try to prevent the keto flu, but that's really what's going on. You'll feel sluggish, you might have a headache. There's some other reasons for that. But then once you get over that hump, your body will start producing ketones. Now, based on how bad your metabolic health was, it may take you a long time. For me, in order to register that I was burning ketones, just to give you an idea of my metabolic health. And remember, this was after every diet under the sun, and that I had lap band surgery and had lost 60 pounds. But I was fighting those 20 pounds back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Although I was better and it kept me from being a type 2 diabetes, I still had significant insulin resistance. It took me about 6 weeks before I produced my first ketones. And down in the bottom of that chart, you'll see alcohol again. And again, you need to know it's there, and I'm going to assume that it's not going to be an everyday thing. But I do want to talk about a concept called oxidative priority, and how incorporating alcohol frequently can really undermine your success on a ketogenic diet. Oxidative priority refers to the order in which the body will burn all the different macronutrients for energy. And yes, alcohol does have some energy. If you look at the calories per each macro, for carbohydrates, for every gram, you'll get 4 calories of energy. For protein, you'll get 4 calories of energy. For alcohol, you'll get 7 calories per gram. And for fat, you'll get 9 calories per gram. So the strategy years ago was make fat really low, because it was based on a calories in, calories out theory. And I'm not saying calories aren't important. Certainly, if you eat a woman my size eating 3,000 calories a day, I'm gonna have over too much energy that I'm not burning. I'm gonna put on weight. But really, it's much more complicated and nuanced than that. You have hormones, particularly insulin, that plays a role. And so with oxidative priority, the body, when you take in alcohol, perceives alcohol as a toxin. It is toxic to the liver, and it's going to do everything it can to eliminate that first. Next, out of all the macros, will be carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is the easiest fuel for the body to grab and use. It's quick energy. You take it in, your carbohydrates break down into glucose, and that glucose is there in the bloodstream, or it's then stored as glycogen in your muscle and your liver. In about the liver, you can have 100 grams. In the muscles, you can have 200 to 300 grams. So we have glycogen stored for when we need it, and the body can break it down to glucose and use it for energy. Whenever there's carbs, fat, and protein on board, the body is going to take the glucose first. That's the first it's going to grab for energy. And with that being a carb burner, and having them always on board is going to make it very difficult for you to tap into your own body's fat stores. And it's quick and it doesn't last long. So after first alcohol, then carbs, then fat. Fat will be the third in line. And so the difference between carb burning and fat burning, if you can get to fat burning, is that it's very even, very steady, where carbs you'll experience the up and downs of the blood sugar. You'll get a glucose spike, then followed by insulin spike, and then you'll drop. And then you'll get hungry again, and then you'll go eat more carbs, get a glucose spike, get an insulin spike, and come back down. I remember like making spaghetti and meatballs for my family, right? Whole wheat pasta, doesn't matter. And after eating that meal, there was no reason why I should be hungry. But what happens over time, because carbs were such a large part of my diet. Now, mind you, I tried to do oatmeal, brown rice, all the better versions of it. And my fat was very low. I would become hungry in about an hour afterwards, and my blood sugar would go so low I'd start getting shaky depending on what I ate, and I need to eat again. So was it an addiction? No, I feel like it was a physiological addiction because I was going up and down. When the carbohydrates are low enough, you can burn the fat you just ate, but then your body's going to then your body will tap into your own fat stores. So we said glucose is a very quick form of energy. It's the first one that the body will go after because it's easy to access. And when you have too much glucose, you're bringing too much in, your body is going to store that as glycogen in the liver and the muscle. And then when you take in an excess of that, it will be stored as fat. Now, when you choose to go on a ketogenic or a low-carb diet, you are purposefully lowering carbohydrates to a level where that's very low in order to force your body to burn its own fat. And when your body starts burning fat, it will produce a new alternative energy, and that is called a ketone. And you'll be in the state of nutritional ketosis. This is not like ketoacidosis that you hear type 1 diabetics going into, or somebody who's not controlled well in diabetes type 2. This is nutritional ketosis, and we're doing that on purpose so that we can access our stored fuel, and that's our fat. And when you produce the ketone, it's a very clean fuel. And you may have heard that, and I taught it this way for years, that the brain needs glucose. Well, if it's in the presence of glucose and ketones, it's going to go for ketones. Ketones is a very clean type of energy. It burns very clean, where carbohydrates and glucose and burning it all the time and taking a lot in kind of ages. We get oxidative stress on all our body parts. And if we take another look at that oxidative priority chart and we add ketones to that chart, you'll see that they come in at 4 grams, just like carbohydrates and protein. But when you first go on the ketogenic diet, it may take you a while. It took me 6 weeks to produce that ketone. And the thing about ketones is that you can't really store ketones. You either burn them or the body will eliminate them in the urine or through your breath. And the body can't store alcohol either, right? So it's going to get rid of alcohol and it's going to get rid of ketones. You're going to use them for energy, but if you don't need them and you're sleeping, they will break down and you'll blow it out as CO2, carbon dioxide, or you'll urinate them out. Actually, that's how I first found out that I was finally producing a ketone. They were for diabetics, but strips to see if there's a lot of ketones in their urine. And if a diabetic had a lot of ketones in their urine, they might not be managing their diabetes well. But in our case, when I finally started producing ketones, my ketone levels were higher because I couldn't use all the fat that my body was burning. So I was eliminating them in my urine and in my breath. As you get further along in your ketogenic journey, my ketone levels are lower because I have a lot less fat than I did. I still have fat, but I have a lot less fat, and my body is good at burning them and using them. I keep my carbohydrates below 20 grams daily of total carbs. Now, the thing about finally tapping into your fat stores and using fat for your energy. So here's what it looks like for me. I'm recently retired I was a professor at Penn State for a lot of years. So I needed to, I was using my brain. Not that everybody doesn't use their brain all day long, but I was lecturing and preparing for lecture and presenting and doing a lot of brain work. And I would get up, have breakfast at 6 a.m., some bacon, some eggs, or sausage and eggs. Maybe I'll add a little bit of cottage cheese in there at 6 a.m. I go all day long and come home at 4:30, sometimes later, didn't matter. I mean, I was getting hungry at that point, but if you look at this chart here, this is when you bring ketones in the mix. And my body was going to use the fat that I fed it as energy. And when that was used up, the rest of the day, I was pulling on my own body fat. So you might find that, like we said before, that 60 to 80% of fat, in the beginning, we want to get you into ketosis. But then later, as you get thinner and you have less fat, that's why I said before, you will maybe have to up your fat because you have less energy, less fat on your body to burn. And what's really amazing, what I love about it is that my body will tell me when I need fat. I'll be hungry for something fattening. Then my body will tell me that I need protein. And I know what hunger is. I would get hungry. By 4 o'clock I was getting hungry at work finally. And I came home and I was ready to eat. But that would have never happened before. I would have been eating like 4 times, 6 times a day, grazing. And all that hunger, all that cravings, all of that is gone. The body will, just to recap, will burn alcohol first. 1, it can't store it, and 2, it's toxic. Then if ketones are available, it will burn ketones. And then once the ketones are burned up, the body will then go into glycogen, or glucose in the blood, or glycogen. And the glycogen is stored in the liver and fat. Or in the liver, in the muscle. And then it will go to now if we keep our glucose low, and our carbs low rather, and our glucose is low, and insulin is low, then insulin has to be low in order for us to get to the fat. So if insulin is high, it will not allow you to burn fat. That's just a fact of life. Okay? So, by doing the ketogenic diet, we're keeping our carbs low, and therefore our insulin will be low, and then we'll use the fat that's in our body or from our meal, and then we'll tap into our stored fat on our body. Okay. And that's really the crux of how the ketogenic diet works. So that should get you started. So I hope this was helpful, covering the macros and why they're important, how they're important to what they're used for in our bodies. I hope it gave you a little idea of how the ketogenic diet works. And before I leave, consider watching this video. It's on healthy fats, and I'll see you in the next video. Consider liking and subscribing. Please leave me a comment, and if there's any videos you need me to do sooner rather than later, put them in the comments and I'll do my best to get to it. Thank you. Oh, and before I go, tell me what your favorite fat is.